In this unit, we'll talk about gender and identity. Let's define some terms. Gender identity is one's inner sense of oneself and as masculine or feminine. Sex is defined as biological understandings based upon reproductive organs. Gender refers to culturally produced behaviors and personality characteristics that may be associated with but are not determined by biological sex. Gender roles refer to the characteristics and behaviors believed to be appropriate for men or for women. Again, gender and all forms of identity are defined in relation to others. Identity is a person's position in social relationships, social structures, and social institutions. There are 4 perspectives of gender identities within this reading. First is essentialism. Essentialism means that conceptions of gender identity assume everyone is born with a particular sex. This sex is associated with corresponding gender, and both are fixed from birth. Sex as a variable, research describes respondents as characterized as female or male, and any differences are found between the two are labeled as gender differences. However, social context might produce apparent sex differences. This later line of research distinguishes between sex and gender rather than treating them as identical, innate, or as property of individuals. Another gender theory is socialization. First is social learning theory. Social learning theories maintain that children are not innately gendered, rather they model the behavior of others through observations, imitation, and interaction. Other people become agents of reinforcement, and children are rewarded or punished for their masculine or feminine behaviors they exhibit. As they learn these patterns, they acquire the capacity to reinforce themselves. This is the capacity of internalization. Cognitive schemas are internal mental structures that allow us to organize social information about various consents, objects, people, groups, and situations, as well as about ourselves. Parallel essentialist perspectives on gender identity, this cognitive conception also tends to be dichotomous. People generally think of themselves as either female or male, not as something in between or as both. Stereotypes are primarily descriptive. They tell people what to believe about the characteristics of members of particular groups. Beliefs sometimes include perceptions of how these groups should or should not behave. In addition to personality traits polarized into femininity and masculinity, gender stereotypes also include prescriptions for social behaviors, physical characteristics, occupations, types of dress and body adornment, and codes of sexual behavior. These specific contexts of what results from the process of socialization depends on the cultural context and the values of the community. The cultural context is necessarily shaped by systems of social stratification. It should be noted, however, that social institutions such as families, education, religion, many occupations, and so forth could not operate effectively without an available pool of well-socialized actors who know the accepted cultural conventions and perform appropriately. Social categories are organizing principles by which the content of socialization is defined. And gender roles are functional in that it legitimizes the perceived differences between men and women and ignores the differences within and the overlap between genders. Gender roles often are unrelated to how people actually behave. For many people, resist or undermine the prescriptions of gender. The next perspective is social construction through performance. Meanings and agreement about social reality are created in the process of negotiating a common interpretation of a situation through the interaction between and among people. Impression management, or the presentation of self in interaction, refers to those processes by which individuals present particular selves to particular others for particular reasons. Identities are established in interaction, then shape the definition of the situation. This publicly agreed on, negotiated definition of the situation thus guides subsequent interaction, with the exception that actors are obligated to behave in accordance with this working consensus and treat each other accordingly. This perspective focuses on the performance of social identities. These identities are performed through negotiation in accordance with the expected behavior associated with these positions. The next perspective is structuralism, which focuses on power and inequality. Structuralism addresses questions of power and inequality in the institutions and structures of society that govern the allocation of resources. This theory focuses on the distribution of resources in social institutions and resources that shape gendered behavior. Social structures rely on and create the conditions within which identities are enacted. It is social structures that locate people within repeated situations that become habitual and institutionalized, such as work situations, family situations, and others. The argument given by the authors is that social identities are produced by active human beings, but always within prevailing normative and structural circumstances.